All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this next session in our Moving Faster with our Hive webinar series. So today we're going to be looking at 3 uses for notes from the Hive team. My name is Oz, and I'm a customer success manager here at Hive. I'll be with you for the next half an hour, and along with our special guest speakers from marketing and product teams. I'll be joined by my colleagues Adi, who's our communications and content manager, and Kelly, our product manager, as they share their insights and experiences using Hive Notes with their team as well. So let's get started. So we're going to be starting off with taking a look at some of the key features in Hive Notes. We will then dive into 3 different use cases of notes from our very own team. As Hive team, we love using notes, and we use it in a lot of different ways to collaborate with our teammates. So today we're going to be taking you behind the scenes and show you how our own team leverages Hive Notes on a daily basis. Now, before we begin, we want to cover a few rules of play for today. If you have a question for me, Adi or Kelly, please drop it in the chat. We'll be addressing those questions at the end. Can I have a copy of this deck? Absolutely. We'll share the deck after the webinar, as well as the recording as well. That's also going to be available. If you're looking for more information, you can visit help.hive.com. It's a great resource for more information about Hive's features and capabilities. And then lastly, if you're looking for help at any point in Hive, you can always follow the blue question mark on the top right corner of your workspace and contact our support team. So let's get started. All right, so Hive Notes is an app that's located in your Hive workspace. It allows you to take notes and format them quickly all within Hive. When you log into your workspace for the first time, you'll see it located on your left sidebar. And basically, you can leverage notes for anything. You can use it during your meetings. You can use it to log and brainstorm ideas with your team. You can manage project plans and rollout plans. You can also collect questions and feedback from team members, share team updates, and so much more. I mean, the possibilities are endless when it comes to Hive Notes. Now, before we talk about the different use cases from our own team, let's actually take a look at the key features and capabilities you can use in Hive Notes. The first one is assigning actions and adding existing actions in your notes. So while taking notes, you can actually create actions and assign it to a teammate to make sure that they're accountable for it. You can even set the due date here, you can set the status, and you can even place it in a project. This way, these tasks that you create in your note automatically become action cards, and that can be placed in projects. Additionally, you can also add an existing action to your note if you wanted to make it part of your note or track the progress more easily. You can also organize your notes based on projects, which means that your notes can be grouped by project. When you create a blank note for the first time, you'll initially see that your note is not linked to any project. So at the top left corner of your note where it says no project, you can actually click on that and move the note to the project that it belongs to. So basically, when you assign a note to a project, it'll be placed in the project folder along with all the other notes associated with that project, and everything will be organized and everything will be in one place. The next one up is, so you can also share your note internally with other Hive users or also externally via email. Let's say if you want to share it internally with your project members and any other Hive users in your workspace, you can actually click on the share button located at the top right corner and choose users you'd like to share it with. You can also add a small note here when you're inviting them to your Hive note, and you can also customize their access level as well. One quick tip here, one thing to remember, by default, users will have full access to your note, but you can always customize that setting to give them read-only access as well. That's something to keep in mind. Now, you can also share your note externally via email. If, let's say, the user that you want to share it with is not part of your Hive workspace, this could be great for collaborating with your clients, your customers, or any other teammate who's not part of your Hive workspace. To share it via email, you can just click on the 3 dots that appear right next to your notes title and choose the email option, as you see it here in the screenshot. The content will be included in the body of the email. All you have to do is just type their email address and it's good to go. And just as another side note here, if you haven't added your note to a project or haven't shared it with anyone, then the note itself and all the actions that you've constructed in that note are going to remain completely private to you. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, another cool feature we have here is linking your note to a calendar event. And this is actually one of my favorite features in Hive Notes as well. If you have Hive Calendar enabled in your workspace, you can actually link your notes with your calendar events. This will populate the attendee list and all logistical details such as the time, the date of the event, the Zoom link as well. So once you link to your calendar event, Hive will also suggest to share this note with the attendees who were initially listed in the meeting invite. So this whole process is automated, which is great. You can also apply a template to quickly format your notes. We currently have 6 templates available for you to choose from. You can click on those same 3 dots, the settings, to view the available templates and apply them to use a pre-existing formatting. And the good thing here is you can always edit the titles and structure here, so you can always customize it based on your use case as well. But these templates are basically for you to start with. All right, and last but not least, you can mention your colleagues in a note to draw their attention to a specific section of the note or even leave comments for reference. When you're constructing your note, you can type @mention in the body of your note, and the list of usernames will show up for you to choose from. Let's say, on the other hand, if you want to leave comments instead of typing in the body of the note, you can also click on the comments icon here and open up the comments section, which is going to show up on the right-hand side of your note. You'll also be able to @mention users here, just as you see here in the GIF here. All right, so now that we went through all the key features of Notes, let's dive into our use cases. I'll start with my own team with customer success. So as a customer success team, we use Notes for many different purposes, such as to collaborate with our customers during their onboarding journeys. We also use it to recap training sessions. We use it to capture notes during our weekly team meetings and one-on-ones, and also to brainstorm ideas such as coming up with a list of topics for our next webinar series. And one of the use cases I'd like to share with you guys today is how we actually use Notes to collaborate with our customers during their onboarding journeys. So with that, I just want to pop this right up here. All right, so over here you see a typical a Hive full team training session note that I typically construct for our customers. So before the session, before we begin the customer training sessions, I like sharing with my customers a breakdown of the sessions that's coming up and the objective and the audience for each session. This way they can get a better sense of what's coming up and they can prep in advance as well. If there are any tasks that they need to complete, such as creating teams or assigning managers to each team or creating user tags, I make sure to create actions within the same note and assign to the onboarding leads. This way they have one place to reference everything. And then during the training sessions or follow-up calls that we have, I also like using the notes. I always go back to the same notes and review the action items assigned to them and see what the progress is so far, and also to document any key decisions that were made or any questions that came up so far. And then after the session, I make sure to include the links to additional resources, such as Hive help desk articles so that they can view the videos, or they can also view any relevant information if they're looking for more information. It's always good to include links there as well, so they can reference moving forward. I personally find that when everything is in one place rather than in multiple emails, I find it easy to track and organize my work. And it also gives me an opportunity to collaborate with our clients, with our onboarding team as well. So this is just like one way to organize your work and also increase collaboration within teams. So I want to share this specific use case with you guys. All right, so now I would like to give the stage to Adi, our communications and content manager. She'll be sharing how she and the marketing team uses Hive Notes to organize their work. Over to you, Adi.
Thank you, Oz. As Oz said, my name is Addie. I am on our marketing team here at Hive. And I think one of the coolest things about Hive Notes is I listen to how Oz uses it, and I'm sure Kelly's going to share as well. And there really are just so many different use cases. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the ways that we use it. The first being a launch checklist for whenever a new product feature comes out. And it's the marketing team's responsibility for spreading the news about that. We also use notes all the time to brainstorm content ideas or any other types of ideas. As anyone else in marketing knows, it's a little more creative, and we're always trying to get as many hands on deck and as many ideas in one place, and notes is a really good way to do that. And then also act on those items. And then lastly, we use notes for our weekly marketing meetings using the threading feature that Oz showed you. But to start, or I guess the main point that I want to highlight is the launch checklist. So to dive into this, I outlined, as you see with the visuals on the screen, just an image of what it looked like before we used notes, and then what we've been able to create now. So first, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the intention of this. So at Hive, whenever we are coming out with a new feature or new product, as I'm sure you guys see via our emails and everything, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that has to go on to make sure that those products are being pushed out to you and are being communicated well to you and are that you're getting all of the information you need in order to understand it. And then also from a marketing perspective, how can we show potential prospects the uses of these features, and how can we tell them, how important they can be for them. So to do this, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and we used to create a spreadsheet, as you can see down below. And this is just a very short snippet of the spreadsheet, but it was a long laundry list of items that needs to be done before something can go live in the product. And that's everything from sending coming soon emails to posting teasing blog posts about it to posting on social media. It takes a lot of different work, and the marketing team, we're several people and everyone has different responsibilities. So it was great to outline this in a spreadsheet, but then we found that you can assign people there by writing someone's name beside it. But then once you do that, it's stale. It's hard to provide additional context, things, you do that and it's kind of done until you revisit. You can color code, but there aren't many features. So what we did is we transferred this using notes, and now it's an actionable checklist. It's customizable, and it allows you to see each to-do item in one big long list. We can list all of our tasks related, we can organize them, and then all you have to do, if you'd like to see more context and see the nitty-gritty, is click in to each task and see all of the details and attachments. So this has been really, really helpful for us, because this list is not populated to its fullest extent, but you can change the statuses of each task, and then that's shown right there in the note. So with one big picture, you can scroll through the note and see what has not been started, what is in progress, who it's been assigned to, what the due date should be. And it just makes things so much easier when there are 20 different moving pieces before a big launch. One of the really helpful things for us as well is being able to move things around in a note. So, we can copy these notes as templates, but they're not forever stuck that way. So if, we decide actually we're not going to send out an email for this one, it's really easy just to remove that action. And then, that's something that's no longer on everyone's plate, and everybody can stay up to date really, really easily. So that's just one of the ways that the marketing team uses Hive Notes.
Well, thanks for sharing that use case, Addie. I think it's a cool way to use Hive Notes, and I'm sure a lot of marketing and comms teams can relate to what you're talking about as well. So thank you for that. Now let's hear from Kelly, our product manager here, on how she and her team uses Hive Notes on a daily basis. So over to you, Kelly.
Thanks, Az. So the product team, we use Notes for a few different things. Weekly performance digests to see, how many cards we released that week, how many Hive Forum votes and features we got out that week. We also use Notes for our feature rollout plans, and that's the way I use Notes most often. So that's what we'll talk about today. So if Az, you can go to the next slide. Mm-hmm. So here is a screenshot of a real note in our Hive workspace. If you have been with Hive for a little while now, you'll know that we recently, I guess maybe last year at this point, kind of redesigned our navigation. So this was the note that we used for that. No spoilers here, we've completed our new nav. But basically, I like to use Notes for our feature rollouts for 3 reasons. 1, to communicate timeline, 2, provide additional context, and 3, collaborate with others. So for these big feature rollouts with lots of different moving parts, it's not always possible to put that on like a Gantt timeline waterfall style. We use the Kanban boards for all of our development projects, so it's hard to see when you're looking at a board the order of events for things. So I will list out all of the stories and the order in which they are rolling out so that I can communicate that timeline with leadership and also with CS and marketing. This also allows me to provide additional context on each of these pieces that could be lost if you're just looking at an additional or a single card. So I can say like, this change is going first for this reason, or this change is going first and then we're doing this, and here's how it fits into like the big puzzle piece of the feature rollout that we're working on. And then I also use this to collaborate with others, specifically CS and marketing. So as Addie just showed, when we release new features, we do a lot of marketing for that. So when I'm changing things, when we're rolling out new features, I need to communicate that timeline with marketing, with CS to say, hey, we might need to change this help article here, or hey, we might need to think about putting out a Pendo or like an in-app post about this feature. And that is how I use Notes.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, it was definitely interesting for me to hear how you and Eddie use Notes for the type of work that you do. I mean, it's already giving me ideas on how I can structure my work as well. All right. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat and we'll spend a moment here going over your questions.
Oh, it looks like we have a couple, Oz, in the Q&A. We have one from Monica. Do the notes ever expire?
They do not expire.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And then
we have one from, sorry,
oh,
go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just going to say, and from Bree, can you reorder entries in a single note, or is it always chronological?
It is always chronological, Bree, but I think there's a feature request already for that in our Hive forum. I'll follow up with you and send you that request after this webinar.
Any other questions?
Also, Monica, I just wanted to say that the notes don't ever expire, but there is an archive feature. So if you do, if it's no longer relevant, but you don't want to fully say goodbye to it and delete it, you can kind of declutter your notes.
Right. I also see that Gina just raised her hand. Let me allow her to talk. Let's see what she has to say. What's your question, Gina?
I think that was an accident. I'm sorry. I'll lower my hand.
That's okay. All right, if there are no more questions, I actually do have questions for Addie and Kelly. Before we wrap up, we wanted to leave you with some bonus tips to take away. So you've already heard that we love using Notes at Hive, and we actually use it in many different ways, but you might be wondering some of the questions here the same way as I do. So I want to ask Kelly and Addie, let's start with the first one. What's your favorite feature in Hive Notes? One thing that you love using in Hive Notes?
You can go first. My favorite feature is comments. My favorite feature of the action card is comments. And so when we brought them to Notes, I was like thrilled. So I love commenting.
Yeah.
Also, I like mentioning users in comments. And we now have mentions in the note itself. So I'm very, very happy about that.
I love hearing Kelly's favorites because she's like the person behind the scenes making them happen. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
But also, I really love the ability to change the colors now in Notes. For a while, the color was pretty limited. It was just, your basic primary red, blue. And now you can, change the text to any color. You can customize the color based on, whatever your brand color is, if it's a note that you want to share externally too, which is something really cool. But yeah, I'm a big visual, blocker. So I like one thing in one color and the next. So that's been really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And I think I've mentioned that mine is the link to calendar functionality. Because I'm so used to like taking notes with I would always mention the attendees, like the details and everything. So now that I can actually link my calendar and everything just pops up, that's amazing. So I love that feature. The next question that I want to ask you guys. So how do you encourage your teams to use Notes? Because I know that you have you're really busy, your teams are really busy. What are some of the things that you guys do to encourage your team members to use Hive Notes more frequently?
Yeah, I think this is a good question and something that people struggle with, especially if other people on their team are used to using different notes tools. For me, just being consistent in my usage of Notes and using Notes, taking the example of the feature rollout, using that note as the source of truth for that rollout. So when I create the note, I share it with all of the developers, all of leadership, all of CS and marketing who are working on that rollout. And if there are any questions, directing them back to the note, putting the questions and the answers on the note. So just being consistent in your usage and reinforcing that is where we go for this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also if you have team members that are just not as keen on using Notes for whatever reason, it's not their go-to, creating some sort of project or work that, is where a note is the hub for that project and they kind of have no choice. But also in meetings, if you're running the meeting or if you're one of the leaders of the meeting, if you take the extra 2 minutes to kind of build out the agenda beforehand, or if you're for marketing, if we're planning a brainstorm in a meeting, whoever is leading that brainstorm will kind of create, just some buckets and some headers to give people starting points to encourage them to start typing in the note, because a blank canvas can be intimidating. And if you tell people to just go in and start adding things, people are like, I don't know what to do. So I think in order to facilitate adoption, just giving people a little extra guidance in the note and making it just as easy as possible for somebody to come in and start working.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you, guys. And then the last question I have here is, what are some of the fun ways of using Hive Notes? Do you have any experience with have you ever encountered a really fun way of using Hive Notes, or any anecdotes that you want to share with us?
I have seen some very clever ways of using Hive Notes to create company wikis almost. So this is in conjunction with the news app. So in the news app, you can create permanent links on the right-hand side of news. And we recently allowed you to copy a link to a specific note. So if you were to create one of those permanent links in news, link it to a note, you could have company wikis in your news page. So I think that's a really clever way of using two different apps.
That's smart. Cool. I like that, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similarly, I think we as an organization have used Notes just for some less work-related topics, just some culture building moments. We have a note, we're based in New York, so we have a note of everybody's favorite New York restaurants and locations that they like to go to. So just a way of connecting the team on a different level, and having everybody collaborate on something that's not 100% work related is really fun. I think we've used it for recipes and stuff just internally as a marketing team too, it's just a fun thing to do.
Yeah. That Hive New York City restaurants list, I've actually shared that with so many people, like so many of my friends who are visiting New York. I would just like email them the note and they would love it. Like it's such a good way to use it.
I just super quickly want to circle back to one of the questions around encouraging users to use Notes. So if you haven't seen this already, Zoom has launched their app store. So when I'm looking at my Zoom, I can see it in the bottom right of the little panel. We have a Hive app in the Zoom app store. So if you were to connect your Hive account, you can actually view, create, edit, manage your notes within the Zoom window. So when you're using the link to calendar, if you're in that calendar event or if you're in that meeting, you can bring up your notes right there. So you don't have to go back and switch back and forth between screens. So I think that is also something to encourage.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Yeah, that's something that we should all be using. I think in meetings, it's like so nice to like work it simultaneously, like have your Zoom window and then you can have your notes right next to it.
And it's also a great, sorry to jump in again. It's also just a great way to encourage collaboration within those meetings because everybody can type at one time when they're shared on the note. So, just like your Google Doc style, but now instead of having to minimize your Zoom window to be half the screen and minimize your Google Doc window to be half the screen and type that way, everything's all within one window and everybody can type in real time together on the same document, which is really neat.
Exactly, yeah. Are there more questions from the team or from any of our attendees here? I don't see anything else. Well, in that case, thanks everyone for joining us today. And thank you to Addie and Kelly for joining me today as well. Lastly, here are a few ways you can get in touch with our team. So if you need support, you can always click on the blue question mark in your workspace and you can just chat with one of our support team members. And you can also visit help.hive.com to review our Help Center articles as well if you ever need support as you work in Hive. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day all.